The sky was full of fire. Metal screamed as the Kelthor cruiser broke apart in the upper atmosphere, falling like a wounded bird. Inside one of the last escape pods, Lysera held onto the straps across her chest, her heart pounding. She was the highborn daughter of House Varellen, heir to one of the oldest noble lines in the galaxy. But now, she was falling toward an unknown frozen planet, alone, bruised, and powerless. The pod slammed into the surface with a sharp jolt, skidding across thick layers of ice before crashing against a snow-covered ridge. Everything went silent for a moment. Then a hiss of steam, a flashing red light, and the creak of the hatch opening. Lysera crawled out, coughing, blood on her lip. The wind hit her like a blade. She had never felt such cold. Her fine silken robes, now torn, offered no protection. Her hands trembled as she pressed a button on her wrist. Nothing. Her beacon was broken. The system was dead. The once proud daughter of Kelthor stood alone in a white wasteland, surrounded by snow, ice, and silence. For hours she walked, limping and weak, her breath shallow, her vision blurring. She fell once, twice. The third time she didn't try to get up. She curled around herself, shivering. This was not how she was supposed to die. Not like this. Suddenly, a voice cut through the wind. "Hey, are you hurt?" Lysera blinked. A shadow approached, tall, broad, wrapped in thick winter gear. It was a human male, his face half covered by a scarf. He knelt beside her. She tried to move, but her muscles refused. "Don't touch me," she whispered, but it was too late. He had already placed a warm glove on her shoulder. She flinched, eyes wide with shock. No commoner, no outsider, no human had ever laid hands on her like that. "You're freezing," he said, ignoring her protest. "Can you walk?" She didn't answer. Her pride said no, but her body said otherwise. He gently helped her sit up. She didn't look at him, only at the snow. "Name's Red," he said, his voice low but calm. "I've got a camp about half a click west. If we stay out here, you'll die." Lysera didn't respond. Her lips were numb. He sighed and lifted her up, carrying her like she weighed nothing. She wanted to scream, to push him away, but instead, her head dropped against his chest. Her last thought before blacking out was how warm he felt, and how strange that warmth was. When she woke again, it was night. She was inside a small dome. Shelter, resting on layers of thermal fabric. A fire crackled near a heat converter, filling the place with an odd but comforting light. Her wounds had been cleaned. A warm drink waited by her side. Reed sat near the wall, quietly watching her. She tried to sit up, but gasped as pain shot through her ribs. He moved quickly to help. "Don't," she said, her voice sharp. He paused, hands raised. "All right," he said. "Just don't pass out again." She looked away. "You have no right to touch me." He smiled, not unkindly. "And you had no right to fall from the sky over my patrol route. I guess we're both out of place." She said nothing. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the crackle of fire and the low hum of the wind outside. Reed offered her the drink. She took it reluctantly, sipping slowly. It tasted bitter, but it warmed her chest. "You Kelthor types always this friendly?" he joked. Her eyes narrowed. "You mock nobility?" "No," he said, more serious now. "I just don't like seeing people freeze to death. Doesn't matter what blood they have." That answer made her pause. She studied his face, rugged, weathered, lined with quiet strength. He didn't look like the brutes she had imagined humans to be. Still, she said nothing more. Later, as she lay under a thermal blanket, pretending to sleep, she listened to him moving about, recharging equipment, checking weapons, keeping watch. Every sound was careful. Not once did he make her feel unsafe. She remembered his touch-rough gloves, calloused hands but gentle. It burned in her memory, not like pain, but like something she didn't understand, something forbidden, something curious. The stars outside the dome were pale and cold, but her mind burned with questions. Why had he helped her? Why had he stayed? And why, in the moment between life and death, had her body not hated his touch, but longed for it again, just for a second? As she drifted off to uneasy sleep, a strange howl echoed across the icy plains, drawing closer. And outside, in the dark, something moved. Asterisk, the sound of breathing wasn't human. It was heavy, broken, almost insect-like, followed by soft crunches of snow circling the shelter. Reed didn't move. He crouched near the heat core, weapon raised, eyes locked on the entrance. Lysera sat upright now, alert, silent, and listening. "What is that?" she asked in a whisper. "Local predator," Reed said. "I've only seen tracks till now. It smells heat. And blood." He glanced at the cut on her arm, barely scabbed over. Her lips parted. "You should have left me." "Too late for that," he muttered. The shelter shook. A long claw scratched down the dome's surface, slow and sharp. Reed's fingers tightened on the trigger of his pulse rifle. Then silence again. Lysera's heart pounded in her throat. She had faced death in many forms, duels, court assassins, war games, but this was something else. This was real. And she had no control. "Stay here," Reed said, standing. "What?" "No, wait." But he was already gone, sliding out the side exit with quiet precision. She gritted her teeth, cursing her weak leg and noble blood that never taught her to fight dirty. Seconds dragged into minutes. Then came the sound of a blast. A scream. Another. Silence. Lysera crawled to the dome opening and peeked out. The white field was stained with ash and something dark. Reed stood above the twitching body of a long, armored beast, its jaw still dripping. He was breathing hard, bleeding from the shoulder, but alive. She stared, eyes wide. The human had killed it alone. When he turned toward her, she didn't speak. She just moved aside and let him enter. No words were needed. Inside, Reed dropped his gear, peeled off the outer layer of his jacket, and winced. The cut was deep. Lysera stood uncertainly. "Sit," she said, her voice sharper than intended. He obeyed, clearly surprised. She took a small vial from her belt pouch, one of the few things unbroken in the crash. A Kelthur Sav high-grade wound sealer. "This will sting," she said. "Go for it." She applied it gently, smoothing it across his skin. He flinched, hissing. "You said it wouldn't hurt." "I lied," she said, almost smiling. "Welcome to nobility." They shared a moment, then a strange one. Quiet, unsure. Her hands on his skin, his breath near her ear. She froze slightly. He noticed. "Still afraid of being touched?" he asked softly. She pulled away quickly, avoiding his eyes. Not afraid. Just not used to it. "Funny," Reed said. "Neither am I, not like this." The silence returned, but it was warmer now. Not cold, not empty. Full of unspoken things. Later, Reed offered her a ration bar. She sniffed it and made a face. "This smells like dirt." "It tastes worse," he said, "but it keeps you alive." She took a bite anyway, chewing slowly. "Your people eat this by choice?" "Only when saving alien princesses," he said with a grin. Her eyes flicked to him. "I'm not a princess. You act like one." She paused, then said quietly, "Where I come from, people like you are not allowed near people like me." "Yeah? Where I come from, people like me never get the chance." Their eyes met for a long second. He broke the gaze first. "We'll need to move soon. If that beast came sniffing, Others might too. There's nowhere to go, she said. No signal, no fleet, no palace guards. I am nothing here. No, Reed replied. You're breathing. That's something. And as long as you do, we've got a shot. She stared at him again. Not with disdain this time, with something else. Something unreadable, even to herself. She lay down again that night, wrapped in layers he insisted she take. As the fire dimmed, her voice reached him in the dark. Thank you, for earlier. You're welcome, he said. A pause. Then she added, You didn't have to carry me. He didn't answer right away. Then, in a quiet voice, I know, but I wanted to. Just. Before sleep pulled them both into silence, a faint light blinked near the broken beacon inside the pod. Lysera's eyes snapped open. She sat up slowly. What is it? Reed asked. She stared at the blinking signal. Someone's coming. Your people? I don't know. But something deep in her chest didn't feel safe. The blinking turned steady. Then a message began to broadcast. And the voice was not Kelther. It was rough, guttural, and full of hunger. Crash site detected. Valuable tech confirmed. Preparing to extract. Reed's face darkened. Scavengers. Lysera stood. Her strength suddenly returned. They're not coming to help. No, Reed said, loading his rifle. They're coming to take everything. And then, outside in the cold, lights appeared in the skyships, descending fast. Asterisk. The first shot didn't come from the sky, it came from the snow. A pulse round hit the side of the wrecked escape pod, sending sparks flying and throwing Lysera backward. Reed yanked her down into the snow, just as the second blast scorched past. Where her head had been. Move, he barked. The snow around them was turning into steam. The scavengers weren't here to ask questions. They were here to kill. 3 rough-looking figures in mismatched armor broke through the mist, moving fast. Their helmets glowed red, and they carried old but deadly weapons. Reed returned fire, blasting one off his feet. Lysera scrambled behind the shelter wreckage, her blade shaking in her hand. She had trained in the arena, yes, but not for this. Not this chaos, not this close. They're flanking. Reed shouted. Back to the tunnel. I saw a crevice near the ridge. Without thinking, Lysera ran. Her foot slipped on the ice, but Reed was already there, grabbing her wrist not gently this time, but out of instinct and urgency. She didn't flinch, not now. The crevice was narrow, barely visible under thick snow, but Reed dove in first, dragging her after. They slid down into darkness, cold rocks scraping their arms. For several seconds they fell, until finally landing on a hard surface far below. Silence, then coughing, then breath. Lysera groaned, trying to sit up. Where are we? She asked, wincing. Old ice tunnels, Reed said. Natural. Maybe carved out by water centuries ago. could lead us away from their scanners? He checked his wrist display dead. No signal, no light. Stay close, he said, and try not to fall into anything. She lit a small orb from her belt, casting a dim purple light. The walls shimmered with frozen mineral veins. It was haunting, beautiful, and silent. They walked slowly, side by side. Neither spoke for a while. The only sound was their boots crunching on frost and the distant groan of shifting ice. Then Lysera said, "You didn't hesitate back there. You killed without question." "They were going to do worse to you," he replied. "To both of us." She looked at him, her voice softer. "You've done this before." "Too many times," he said. "But not for someone like you." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "I mean," he said, glancing at her, "you're not a soldier. Not really. Not in the way that matters. You're trained. But you've never had to run for your life. Before today." Her jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. "I single quotes learning," she said. "You're adapting," he corrected. "That's harder." They found a dry ledge and sat for a moment. Lysera took off her gloves, flexing her fingers near the small heater he'd pulled from his bag. "I thought your kind was crude, loud, reckless." "We are," Reed said with a half-smile. "But some of us are just cold and tired too." That made her laugh just a little. But it surprised them both. A strange humming sound interrupted the moment. Deeper in the tunnel, faint lights flickered blue and white. "Not from the scavengers. Not man-made. Do you see that?" Lysera whispered. "Yeah," Reed said, standing slowly. "Stay close." They moved carefully through the narrow opening, stepping into a wide underground chamber, unlike anything either of them had seen. Alien walls rose in a perfect dome, covered in glowing symbols. In the center stood a tall spire-cracked but pulsing faintly. The air felt warmer here, heavier. The structure didn't belong to Calther or humans. "What is this place?" Lysera breathed. "I don't know," Reed whispered. "But it's old. Ancient." Lysera stepped forward. Her presence seemed to awaken something. The spire's glow grew brighter as she neared it. Her skin tingled. Her heartbeat echoed louder then the spire pulsed, and a burst of light shot, outstriking both of them. They fell to their knees. Visions raced through Lysera's mind, images of her ancestors, standing beside humans, sharing knowledge, fighting as allies, even loving them. She gasped, overwhelmed. Reed saw it too. He saw her pain, her isolation, her burden to be perfect. And she saw his loneliness, his sorrow, his hope buried beneath tired smiles. When the light faded, they were still holding each other, arms wrapped tight. Neither knew who moved first. Neither cared. For a moment, everything was still. "I saw you," Lysera whispered. "All of you." "Same," Reed said, voice rough. "That wasn't tech. That was something else." "A bonding chamber," she said softly, eyes wide. "From a race older than either of ours. It linked us." They stood slowly. A bond formed in silence. Something unspoken, but very real. But before they could say more, a sharp noise shattered. The calm, metal against stone, voices, footsteps. The scavengers had followed them. Red grabbed her hand. "We run. Now." And together, they ran deeper into the ancient dark toward something neither of them could understand. Asterisk, not just glowing but breathing, humming, pulsing softly with every step they took. Lysera slowed first, her boots crunching to a stop on the frost-covered floor. "Reed," she whispered, "I don't think we're just inside a ruin. I think we're inside something alive." Reed didn't respond. He was staring at the walls too. Each symbol was slowly shifting, realigning in real time, as if the ancient alien structure was watching them. No responding to them. Behind them, the distant echoes of the scavengers' voices grew louder, bouncing along the ice-carved corridors. But deeper ahead, the light grew warmer. Pulling them forward, Reed took Lysera's hand again. This time, she didn't even look down. At it, her fingers tightened on his without a word. The corridor opened into a circular chamber unlike anything they'd seen. It looked like the heart of the structure. Tall and hollow, the center held a platform of crystal hovering inches above the floor, bathed in a golden glow. Carved lines radiated outward like veins. Above, a shaft led up to the frozen ceiling of the ice world, and at the very top, a faint star shone through a crack in the ice. It looked like the last eye of a forgotten god. "I don't like this," Reed said, stepping forward cautiously. "I do," Lysera replied, breathless. "This place knows us." He turned to her. "You think it showed us those visions for a reason?" She nodded. Bonding chambers were myths. Forbidden stories. About how two minds from different worlds could be merged by intention. Some called it a ritual. Others called it heresy. She stepped onto the platform. It didn't shatter or sink. It lifted her gently. "Maybe we were meant to find it." Reed stepped on beside her. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a glow surrounded them. This time, there was no force, no flashing images. Only stillness. Warmth. And then the platform spoke not in words, but through feeling. It reached into them. Reed saw her again, but deeper this time. A girl trained to be perfect, never allowed weakness, always wrapped in ceremonial coldness. He felt her. Fear of never being loved for herself. Lysera saw him, 2 battles fought alone, friends buried on nameless moons, and the way he stared into the stars, not with wonder, but regret. Her breath caught in her throat. His hand trembled in hers. "This is—" she began, but her voice cracked. "I know," he said, and then, like a sigh, a platform settled. The light faded. The chamber darkened, until only that single crack of starlight remained. They stepped off, quiet and changed. Lysera looked at him. "If this were Calthair, touching you would be punishable. But down here," her fingers brushed his cheek. "Down here, I don't want to stop." Reed smiled faintly, but before he could speak, the walls flickered red. The warmth vanished, and a voice, artificial and cold, boomed through the tunnels. "Calthair royal signature confirmed. Extraction initiated." Lysera's face went pale. "No. What does that mean?" Reed asked quickly. "My people—" "They found me." Above, the shaft began to quake. Metal clamps unfolded, years grinding. A beam of light shot down the middle of the chamber, and a descending probe scanned them both in flashing patterns. Then it projected a message. "Highborn Lysera of House Varellin. Your location has been secured. Prepare for retrieval." Reed backed away from the light, instinctively. "This is good, right?" he said. "You're being rescued." But Lysera didn't look happy. She looked terrified. "No," she whispered. "They'll take me back. Pretend this never happened. And you, they'll erase you." "What?" "They'll say you contaminated me. That I was compromised. They'll kill you, Reed. I'm not just going to hand you over." "You won't have a choice," she said bitterly. "They never give choices." Suddenly, from far above, the unmistakable rumble of a Calthair warship cut through the air. The ship was descending fast, silent, massive and unstoppable. Lysera grabbed Reed's arm. "Run." He didn't move. "They won't hurt you." "No," she said, voice breaking. "But they'll tear us apart." Before either of them could run, the chamber burst open with a beam of light, and rows of silver-armored soldiers dropped. Down in precision, energy weapons drawn. Their voices boomed. Step away from the human. Reed lifted his hands slowly. Lysera stepped in front of him. The soldiers didn't hesitate. They fired. The world turned white. Asterisk. The silence after the blast was unnatural. It wasn't peace. It was the sound of things ripped apart too quickly. Reed lay still, ears ringing, snow melting against his skin from the heat of the stun blast. He couldn't move, not fully. His limbs felt like lead. His vision was blurry, and the voice that called his name was muffled, as if coming through a wall of water. "Reed, get up, please?" He tried. He managed a groan. A shadow leaned over him, Lysera. Her hands were shaking, pressed against his chest. She wasn't a soldier in that moment. She was just a girl trying to protect something she wasn't ready to lose. Silver boots thudded on the crystal floor. Dozens of Kelthur warriors in perfect armor, their helmets featureless, their stances cold and proud. One stepped forward, taller than the rest, his cape shimmering like steel. Warlord Theron, Lysera's father. He didn't look at Reed, only at her. "You survived." "Good," he said, his voice as emotionless as the ice around them. "You've shamed us with this delay. The High Table demands answers." "I was shot down," Lysera said, rising to her feet. Her voice was sharp, but controlled. "I survived, alone, until he found me." Theron's gaze finally dropped too. "Reed, yes, the human." He said it like a disease. Reed coughed, managing to sit up. "You're welcome," he muttered. Two soldiers stepped forward. Weapons raised. Lysera blocked them. "He saved me. He protected me. He didn't hurt me." Theron stepped closer, his tone colder. "He touched you." Lysera didn't answer. "That alone is enough," the warlord said. "He will be taken, his memory wiped. He will be dropped on a barren moon where no voice answers. You, daughter, will return to your duties." "No," she said, just one word, but heavy. His eyes narrowed. "You dare speak against command?" "I'm not a child," she snapped. "I know what I felt, and I know what you're about to destroy." Reed pushed himself to his feet. "She's not property," he said, unsteady but firm. "You don't own her. She made her own choices." Silence, human. Theron waved his hand. Two warriors grabbed Reed by the arms. Lysera stepped forward again, but her father held her with a glance. "Don't," he warned. "You've already cost our house enough dignity." Reed met her eyes one last time before they pulled him away. Her lips parted, but she said nothing. Not here. Not in front of them. They shackled him in the transport bay. Metal cuffs, bright lights, a cold bench and colder silence. Lysera never came to see him. Not during the flight. Not during the process. He stared at the wall of the holding cell, trying to remember the sound of her voice, the heat of her hand. He was used to being alone, but this was different. This hurt. Lysera sat inside her private chamber, wrapped in layers of silk and ceremonial armor. Her face had been cleaned, her blade polished, her shame hidden beneath tradition. But nothing they gave her made her feel whole again. Her father called it survival. Her people called it duty, but no one asked her what she wanted. And then the moment came, the announcement. Prisoner has been processed. Shuttle ready for disposal. Lysera stood. She walked, heart pounding, down the empty corridor toward the prisoner wing. No one stopped her. No one dared. She entered the cell only to find it open. Empty. A soldier stood nearby, confused. "My lady, the human." "He's gone." Her breath caught. "Gone?" she asked. "How?" "No logs. No trace. He's vanished." She stumbled back, a single tear slipping down her cheek. Somewhere, far from the warship, a rogue signal pinned in deep space. A stolen vessel drifted through the stars, silent and dark. And on its console, a cracked photo had been tucked into the dash, an alien ruin, a bonding light, and two silhouettes standing hand in hand. Reed was gone, but not from her heart. Touched the chamber wall, fingers trembling, and whispered to the stars, "Find me." The ship turned toward the stars, and far away, somewhere unseen, a reply blinked once on a quiet screen. Asterisk, it was the kind of silence that didn't feel empty. It felt like waiting deep in the black, between systems untouched by war or rule. A small ship drifted silently, its hull dented but holding. Inside, the air was still. Reed sat alone, legs stretched out, head against the cold wall of the ship's hull. He hadn't slept in days, not truly. Sleep brought her face, her voice, the way she'd stood in front of him with fire in her eyes, the way she didn't say goodbye. He told himself he didn't blame her, but part of him wanted to. The stars outside were soft and far away. He remembered the way she once looked at the sky like she belonged to it. He wasn't born in palaces or trained for command. He was just a scout, a survivor, a man who got lucky and then unlucky in the same breath. And still, he couldn't stop seeing her hand reaching through the cold. That one moment she didn't flinch. That one moment she held on. Back on the Kelthar warship, Lysera stood before the high table, face blank, words measured. They questioned her loyalty, her fitness to lead. She gave the answers they wanted, but not the truth, that she had changed, that the ritual chamber had marked her in ways they couldn't see, that her heart was somewhere else. That night, when all was quiet and the halls empty, she slipped away. No guards, no weapons. Just a stolen code and a shuttle small enough to vanish from their scanners. The moment she entered her ship and punched the coordinates, her hands shook. She didn't know if he was alive. She didn't know if he'd wait. All she had was memory. And memory, she realized, could be louder than any order. Reed's ship beeped a signal, faint, just a pulse. Familiar. He froze. He checked the console. It wasn't military. It wasn't scavenger. It was her dot. She had found him. When the docking bridge connected, he stood near the door, unsure if he was breathing. The hatch opened with a soft hiss, and there she was, hair pulled back, armor stripped away, eyes wide and wet. She looked at him like he was both her past and her future. "I didn't know if you'd still be here," she said. "I didn't know if you'd come." Neither moved. Then she took a step forward. Then another. And then she pressed her forehead to his chest and exhaled, as if she'd been holding her breath since the day they tore him away. "I'm not afraid anymore," she whispered. "I never was," he said softly, wrapping his arms around her. They didn't speak for a while. There was no need. Every breath, every heartbeat between them said what words couldn't. Later, as they flew together through uncharted stars, Lysera stared out the window. "If they find us, they'll call it betrayal. And let them," Reed said. "We'll call it something else." "Like what?" He turned to her, smiling slightly. "Freedom." Her hand found his again. This time, it was her who reached first. And this time, she held on. Somewhere behind them, the Empire moved on. The scavengers searched. The warships circled. But ahead of them lay stars untouched, ruins unexplored, and a future built not by bloodline or command, but by a single, unforgettable truth. What the heart remembers cannot be erased. And out there, in the quiet between galaxies, two souls, once from opposite worlds, now walked one path, together. Asterisk the end.